Using the v-bind directive, we can control attribute values. The web page appearance is controlled by two attributes, class and style. So the question is, can we control the class and style attribute using the v-bind directive? Yes, we can. We will start with controlling the class attribute. Vue is very flexible in this regard. We have been given lots of options. First, we create a p tag and insert some text into it. Then, we go upstairs to the style tag and define a few new classes. We're going to decorate the p tag using these classes. In other words, we are going to bind these classes to the class attribute using the v-bind directive. In the starting p tag, we insert the v-bind directive and bind the class attribute. So, what kinds of values should we assign? Based on your needs, you can assign a placeholder, an array, or a JSON object. First, let's try the simplest one, placeholder. We name the placeholder class underscore name. Then we go downstairs to View Instance. We go to the data property and create a new property using the placeholder name. We want the text to be red, so the value we assign here is red font. Run the program. We can see the text is now in the red color. Turn on the source code. We can see the red font class has been added. Then let's try the blue background class. Usually, we will assign several classes to the same HTML tag simultaneously. For example, we want the text to be red and have a blue background at the same time. In this case, we need to use an array value. We switch the class name into an array. We want to add two classes, so two array elements are here, class 1 and class 2. Then we go back to the data property. We set class 1's value to red font and class 2's value to blue background. Run the program. We can see the two classes have now been added. Next, let's try JSON object. Things are a little different here. Inside the JSON object, property name is the class name. Property value will decide whether this class will be added or not. For example, we use class name red font as property name and use true as property value. Run the program. We can see the text is now red. If we switch its value to false, then the text color will go back to black. Next, we add another property. Run the program. We have a blue background. Compared with a placeholder and array, JSON object allows us to control whether a class should be added or not. This switch can be defined in the data property or the computed property. We create two placeholders, switch1 and switch2. We assign switch1 to red font and switch2 to a blue background. Then we go downstairs to the View Instance. In the data property, we define two new properties, switch1 and switch2. We set switch1 to true and switch2 to false. Run the program. Only the red font class has been added. The value of switch 1 and 2 can also be defined in the computed property. This can open a door of great potential. We will explore this area later. HTML code should always be kept clean and concise, but assigning a JSON object to the v-bind directive will ruin this. The solution here is we define the JSON object in the View instance. In the HTML code, we only leave a placeholder to represent this JSON object. We delete the JSON object and insert a placeholder, class underscore object. Then we redefine the JSON object in the data property. Class underscore object will be the property name. We use class name red font as a property name and use true as a property value. Run the program. We can see the text is now red and has a blue background. We add another class, heavy font. Then we turn off the blue background class. Next, we move the JSON object from the data property to the computed property. We still use class object as property name, but we cannot directly assign the JSON object at this time. Always remember, property value inside the computed property must be an anonymous function. Inside the anonymous function, we return the JSON object. We can see the result is the same. The reason we go through all the trouble to move the JSON object from data to computed is because we want to control the class from the data property. We define two switches in the data property. Then we assign them in computed property. Accessing properties from the data property requires the keyword this, THIS. Run the program. Everything is working fine. We have learned how to control the class attribute. Now, let's figure out how to control the style attribute. We have a p tag here. We insert the style attribute into it and bind the vbind directive. We assign a JSON object to them. Inside the JSON object property name is the CSS property name. For example, we want to turn text to red. We use color as a property name. The property value is a placeholder. We name it color choice. Then we go to the data property and define the color choice property. We set its value to red. Run the program. We can see the text is now red. Turn on the source code. The style attribute has been added to the p tag. Next, we give the p tag a blue background. If you think JSON object has ruined the simplicity of your HTML code, you can move it to the data property. We assign a placeholder to the style attribute. We name it style object. The result is the same. Certain new HTML5 attributes need prefixes like WebKit or Moz. Vue will automatically do this for you.